Welcome back to Coffee with Soul Sunday sessions. For anyone that doesn't know me, I am Jordan, aka the Soul Diva, and my mission is for women to love themselves fiercely, reclaim their voice and their self-expression. And I am joined today by the amazing Nicola Cook, who is a life and wellness coach. Nicola, I know you keep floating in what you're doing, so I'm going to hand over to you for the rest of the introduction.
No problem. So as Jordan said, I'm a life and wellness coach. I help women. I describe it in different ways, so I'll try and keep it as succinct as possible. I help women to step out of who they think they should be and step into who they really are, because that's been my journey. So that's the shortened version of what I do. There's so much more to it, which we can chat about as we go on, but that's kind of the crux of it. And I love nature, and I've had coaching, so I get the whole life and wellness sort of thing. So that's how it comes together as a life and wellness coach.
And obviously the nature thing is your thing. And I know that, when we very first connected, it was the nature, it was the walks, it was putting that all together. Tell me more about the women you work with and how you bring the nature into that.
So I tend to go for sort of women already on the personal development path. They've done some work, or they are aware of some of their stuff, and they're looking to maybe level it up a little bit. Usually with like-minded individuals that have their wellness, they're aware of their wellness, they're aware of looking for changes. But saying that, I have had people at the very beginning of their journey approach me and ask how I can help as well. So, there's this kind of cliche about the ideal client and having a niche and stuff. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but it doesn't work the same way for everybody. So I'm actually looking to put together a beginners program, because the program I've put out just now is, I think, quite advanced. And I think maybe I can simplify it a little bit as well to have like a beginner's version. So maybe help the people that are at the beginning stages, because I've got to remember back to where I was in the beginning stages. I was there, and I would have loved someone's help in the beginning stages as well as the middle stages and whatever I went after that. So, but it's definitely people who are aware of what wellness would be, what would it mean to them? And I can help them with tools around sort of self-worth, self-love, the mindset stuff. And I'm really passionate just now about studying breath work and cold water immersion, all those things. So I kind of dip my toe. I wear a few different hats in regards to sort of who I help, because I do the walks as well, which is how it all started. So, and they can be for anybody really, there's no restriction on who comes to the walks. They're really just for mindfulness, to give people that introduction in the immersion and show them how good they feel after spending time in nature.
I love that, and I'm so taken that obviously for me it's the beach is my 10 minutes down the road, and that feeling just walking along the beach with no headphones, no music, and just being
the water sound, the waves,
present.
Totally.
Absolutely. And just how much difference that can make even without that coaching layer. So
And do you do it in bare feet when you're on the beach?
We have pebbles. It's uncomfortable to walk on those in bare feet.
Because I'm only asking this because this morning, so I do a hike, quite a high hike every morning, and I've been aspiring to do it barefoot. So I'm rewilding my feet just now. So what that basically means is I'm trying to not wear shoes, or I only wear barefoot shoes. So I'm trying to get them back to their sort of spread out shape that they're not. Because if you think your foot is this shape, this being your toes, this being your heels, but shoes are normally this shape, and that's not the shape of our feet. So when I read that, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. So for the last few months, I've been walking barefoot outside on different surfaces. So this morning on my hike, I was 2/3 of the way up, and I thought, I'm going to take my shoes off. So I managed to do the last bit with just my bare feet, but it's big boulders, big stones. So it's easier to walk on big stones. It's the small stones that are harder. So I thought, okay, I'll start coming down the same way and I might put my shoes on at that same point. I didn't. I walked the whole entire walk in bare feet right to the bottom.
Wow.
My feet are feeling it a little bit. I had to give them a little massage with some oil today after the shower because I thought, no, that maybe was too much for the first time on that
Yeah.
surface list, but I actually really enjoyed it. I felt it's that connection. So there's the electromagnetic field coming off the earth, and we
Yeah.
have lost that connection to it because we wear rubberized shoes and, we're not outside doing grounding or earthing and that feeling. So I feel it for myself and I know how good it feels. I mean, my journey, a big part of my life story is that hill that I'm talking about. I climbed it every day for 5 years at 5 o'clock in the morning in that search for something. It turns out that something was me, that powered being that was always in there, the warrior goddess, as I like to call everyone, was there, but I didn't know she was there. So it was that finding who am I? What do I want? What's life about? It sounds quite deep and meaningful, which it was, I guess. And I've shed some tears up there. I've laughed up there. I've been angry up there. I've shouted from the top, in the wind just to get the voice out and move stuff through me and things. So that's a really massive part of my journey. That hill is very significant. And that's where I do a lot of my mindful walks for people. So that hill has got a really, really special place in my heart. So it's a big part of my journey.
I love that. And I was reminded of Wild,
Yes.
where she doesn't really know, she's walking it for her, but not
Yeah.
really knowing why she's walking the
Yeah.
Pacific Coast Highway,
Yeah.
and everything that goes along with that, and that
Yeah.
she finds herself within that. And
I love that.
um
Yeah.
and obviously within the film, that scene where she loses the boot and then just screams and lets it go. um and I know for me with my clients, it's always like, if you can find somewhere to scream. And my favorite place is the car, because where I live, I think I would freak my neighbors out. So mine's, at least in the car, you sort of have this, you're contained.
Absolutely.
But interestingly, when I was talking to one of my clients the other day, she was like, but then I feel like I've literally screamed into something and it's kept in.
Yeah, yeah. Open the windows, let it out.
Yeah. Exactly. So absolutely.
They just opened the windows like this, but nowadays we just do this.
And I didn't even notice. Oops, showing my age. But no, I've just taken back to the, being able to do all of that on the mountain, and being able to have that space and freedom to do that work.
It's interesting you're saying that, because I do it with my clients. I encourage them often to go and scream or shout or tribally get something out. It's very tribal. I did it a few months ago and my partner left me to it in the bathroom and I just roared and screamed and I came out and he went, I'm impressed. That was really quite tribal, but I live in the middle of nowhere, so I can. So I often say that to my clients as well. Go in the car, get in the car. It's a good, safe place to do it. You can drive wherever you need to go, and then you can really start to let that stuff out. And so it's interesting that just came up because I do it too.
No, and well, and the other bit you were obviously talking about was the breath work. And obviously when I work with my clients, I'm all about the embodying and how we've embodied, and actually, the body keeps score, how we've kept all of this in our body. So the movement, that using the word tribal, actually, when I have that image, it's the movement, it's that moving to potentially a drum beat, that sort of heartbeat, breathing, letting it out, letting out the sounds that you need to let out, moving in the way you need to move, not because it looks nice and pretty.
Yes. And that's what we're worried about a bit. I think we're scared of what people think or how it looks, And I've been to some workshops where it's been really uncomfortable, out of my skin, uncomfortable places where we've had to do dancing and expression and anger. And I didn't want to do it. I used to want to run out the door. But I knew that what you're scared of is the stuff you kind of need to run towards, because that's where the healing is. And I still have stuff come up for me that I'm surprised is still there, that I have moved through, but it still pops up. My first divorce was quite traumatic, and the whole marriage was a little bit turbulent for 12 years. So that's 12 years of trauma, if you like, on and off. I'm still clearing that. Still clearing that. And it's often, it doesn't surprise me now, but for a while it used to catch me and surprise me. And I think, wow, that's still coming up now. And it's still in that movement I found. It's the knowledge I had was good, but it's that movement, the voice, the movement, and really following through with it and getting it. Because as you say, the body keeps the score. And if you don't let it out, it's going to stay in there and manifest in something, whether it's depression, or dis-ease or something, there's all that stuff. And that just like fascinates me so much that our bodies work in that way.
And again, I've just pulling to mind another client, both conversations in the last week. And it's interesting that when she starts to feel overwhelmed, her stuff comes out. Her back goes.
Okay.
And so we're literally talking support. We're literally being able to support herself within all of this. So it's not that emotional or mental overwhelm. Her body literally gives her the signals.
And most people do.
Yeah.
We just aren't connected to it. We've gone a bit overwhelmed, we're overconsumed, we're busy, we're switched on, we're overstimulated all the time, and we're not tuning into our bodies. And that's why I think nature for me has been so significant, because in nature you're just back into yourself. There's nothing there. I do have my phone for photos and things, but I don't use it in that way. My Mac's not there, and there's not overwhelm, and I'm not looking at social media and all those things. So we're just overstimulated, overwhelmed. And if you can take those moments to tune into your body and find out, what's my body telling me? If I've got a struggle, where does it show up? And I've heard a lot of people recently speaking about a shoulder pain or a knee pain that shows up when they're stressed or when they're overwhelmed. So that's just totally what we're saying there. It just comes out somewhere. And if we don't allow it out, it's going to come out. And the chances are it's going to come out at a time and place where you really don't want it to. So you might as well do it in a controlled environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a planned way.
Yes, do it on purpose. Like, yeah, set up a bit of structure so you can get that stuff out 100%.
Going back actually to you were talking about the grounding and the earthing and just how important that is. And we're back to, if you live in a city and it's not so easy to get right into, woods or forest or wherever, that even getting to the park, taking your shoes off, if you've got a garden space, just spending those times and reconnecting. And
definitely, even looking at a picture of nature is proven to help. So even looking at a window can help. And they've done studies on hospital patients who recovered in a non-nature view or a nature view. And the ones with a nature view all recovered quicker from what they were going through because they saw nature. Just looking even through a window, if you can't even do that, put it as a screensaver on your computer. It's not as good, but it is good, So if you can't get it, somehow get it somehow, but getting out of there and getting your feet on the ground, and the ground speaks to you, your feet speak to the ground. We're sending signals backwards and forwards. The trees talk to each other, I always forget the word, the mycelium, I can't remember what the word is, I never remember it, for the mushrooms and the fungi, mycelium is the word, and they all speak to each other. So there's all this language going on, and our feet communicate that as well. And we lose that connection and that grounding and that earthing, that really nice, that balanced feeling of just get your feet out there. And I never got my bare feet out. I was, well, would the word be conditioned? I suppose it would be. I used to have cold feet, so I always used to think I had to keep them covered. But also dirty feet. If you go out into your garden and your grass has been cut, you're going to take in bits of grass into the carpet or onto the surface. And my mom was a bit of a perfectionist, so she was always like, oh, don't come in with dirty feet, and I mean, I came back off the hill this morning and my feet were like dusty. They were almost black with like sort of the dust off the sort of sandy bits of the track. And I looked down and that actually made me smile. I could see like dirt between my toes, and I thought, that's how feet are supposed to probably look, that we've forgotten because we've been so conditioned that shoes are what we're actually supposed to wear. I'm not saying ditch your shoes, everybody, and stop wearing shoes, but when you get the opportunity, get those lovely toes out, you know, get them out into the natural surfaces and just do it and feel how good it feels. In fact, one of my clients this morning mentioned that she was feeling a bit overwhelmed and she was away at the beach. And she was a bit older, and I said, do me a favor, get your shoes and socks off when you get to the beach. Go into the water if you want, but if you don't want, at least get your shoes and socks off because it is just sand. And she sent me a video, and her dog went in with her, which he never does. And she said, look at this. And I said, and you know what? That could have a ripple effect because someone watching could see this older woman thinking, oh my God, look at that woman just getting her shoes and socks off and going into the water. They might not do it there and then, but the next time they go, they might think, oh, I might have the confidence to go do that too now.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's not just in those moments as well. It's, you've got the grounding, the earthing, the connection, but there's also that moment of that joy and playfulness and all those other things that certainly as adults,
Yeah.
you know, kind of get lost.
Yep. How do we play? There's a guy that I'm in his membership just now, and his book's amazing, and he speaks about rechilding.
Yes.
So it's rewilding, but they do it at the retreat, which actually incidentally is happening this weekend, but I can't make it because it's at the bottom of England and it's too far away for me to get to. Next time maybe. But he speaks about rechilding, and they speak about how we used to climb trees, you know, and move about and stuff. You know, kids weren't designed to sit in a chair in a desk for 8 hours a day from such a young age. They're supposed to learn from, you know, going climbing trees and all those things and all the movement and stuff. And I love that. Rechilding. We could all be done with rechilding because we forget that we should have fun and how to play. And how did that go so wrong as adults? You know, we're like, have fun, jump on a swing. You know, if I'm in a park now or I walk past a park and I see a swing, I'm like, I'm going to go on that swing, have a little bit of fun, be on the swing.
And you were talking obviously about your journey. A big part of my journey was I studied therapeutic creative arts. And as part of that, it was relearning to play. So there I am in my 30s, thinking I knew how to have fun, thinking I was okay with some of this. Yeah. And then suddenly, you know, here I am. And it's not about drawing the best picture, and it's not about it's making noise for noise sake. If you were playing the instrument, it's moving because that feels good. You know, it's getting the puppets out. And yes, obviously there's an element where it's about a communication with that thing. But it's still, you know, playing literally with puppets or clay and just getting in there. And to start with, it was really hard to let go and to kind of get into that self. And that now I just kind of go, why was it so hard? Why do people find this so hard? And
I know it is hard. It's really hard. If you're just dancing, you know, it's all right when you're by yourself and you put on music and no one's watching, but the minute you've got someone there, we're just different people, you know. I think it's the fear maybe of judgment or what people are going to think, or, you know, some of these workshops, I'm saying that it's been like crawl out of my skin cringe. It wasn't once I got into it, but the initial, you know, looking at everyone else, what are they doing? You know, am I doing it wrong? Are they doing it? What are they doing? And some people are completely letting go, and you know, and you're, oh, I wish I could do that. And then you're looking at someone that's rigidly just sort of standing there, and you think, oh, that's where I am. And it's just like that confidence to go, you know what? I shouldn't care what anyone else is thinking. I should just do it. Just do it. But that's the thing. It's, yeah, we've lost it. We've lost the art of how to play and have fun, especially even kids now, you know, are losing that art of having fun, you know, and it's this, and maybe it's the pursuit of perfection. I don't know. I know I'm a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I know that having the house tidy, for example, is a big thing for me when my anxiety flares up. The thing that I try and control because I feel out of control is the house. So my poor partner gets it in the neck. If my anxiety flares up, I start to go, why is that lying there? What's that doing there? Why is that there? And he's just like, everything okay, Nicola? Luckily, he can kind of interrupt that pattern and now understand. But it was a dance between us for a long time. He would react back to my reaction, but now he knows something's up, and he'll sort of say, "Are you okay, Nicola? Is everything fine? Can I help you with something? Are you feeling a bit overwhelmed?" Which is usually what brings on my anxiety, is feeling a bit overwhelmed. And then the house is like that. Why is that there? Get that tidy. Don't spill that. Don't do this. And it's like, who cares? You know, it cleans. Your housework's gonna be there tomorrow. You know, but you could go out and do some. I can't do cartwheels, but I'd love to say I could. I can't. I'm too scared though. I maybe could. Maybe I could go cartwheeling around my garden, because I've not done it for so long. I'm scared I hurt myself.
It is, it's that, but it's that trying, isn't it? And there's so much, I guess there's two sides. So as adults, there's expectations. Most of them we place on ourselves. So like you're saying, you know, the clean house, and I know obviously I'd had COVID last year. I hadn't had the energy to do it. I mean, when I say any cleaning, I mean zero. There was dust, I hadn't vacuumed, it wasn't possible. And I remember a friend saying, "I can come to you for coffee," and I'm looking at them looking at everything going, really, really embarrassed. Like, you know, this is, but in that moment, it was more important to see somebody and have that connection. And it was just like, look, you know, I've been sick, you know, I haven't been able to do anything. Just shut your eyes.
And you know what? People probably care less than we think.
I was going to say, it wasn't a problem.
And go, "Oh, look at their dust. Oh my goodness me." You wouldn't, you know, nobody would care unless it was an absolute, like, you couldn't get a seat because there was so much stuff lying around. Maybe you'd think, "Oh, that's a bit untidy." But I mean, who's going to go around and check for your dust? Or, you know, nobody cares. But we do that if someone's coming over. The house gets a good going over, especially if it's mother's coming over. The house gets a great big tidy up. I don't now, but I used to. Everything was dusted, and the windows maybe need washing. You know, everything's got to look pristine and in perfect position. And now I think, they can take me as I'm not an untidy person as such, but, you know, maybe untidier than some, tidier than others. You know, everyone judges their own stuff differently. So I just think, life's too short to take it too seriously. But like I used to be that person, that uptight, like, you know, really perfectionist, anxious, you know, people pleaser. But that's been a big journey of mine. And that's what the hill, I suppose, came about, was to try and think, I don't want to be where that person is now. I don't like it. So there must be something else out there. So let's go and have a look.
And yes, and I was just, for my journey, it was about that worthiness and finding that worthiness. So, you know, if my house is clean, then I'll be worthy and people will like me. So we're back to the, you know, the people pleasing and that. And now it's having enough love for myself, you know, to just go, well, this is me authentically. And you know what, if the state of my house is going to be an issue for you, then we're probably not going to connect in the best way anyway.
You're not my person then.
Yeah, you know, with a lot of respect, it's like, no, if you're here for me, you're here for me. Yes. And I don't need that approval, I guess, anymore.
Yeah.
Which
so where did your journey start? So what was it, an epiphany or like a moment that you got, or was it a journey, like an ongoing kind of journey?
It was a little bit of both. So I always say that I didn't have self-worth as a teen. I struggled with my self-worth, my self-esteem, really struggled through my teenage years. And then sort of as I hit my 20s, I was seeking out inappropriate relationships to, you know, try and find myself as someone else. And that resulted in me ending up in a very toxic relationship, which ended with 12 police in my flat, but we don't go there.
Okay. Dramatic then.
It was a dramatic ending. And obviously that affected me. It was like what I already had was that was gone. I was sort of down. But I guess the pivot point was the first healthy relationship after that, where all of my barriers were up, I had no trust. Every little thing I was hanging on to, and it meant I didn't act in the best way. I mean, he could have been Mr. Perfect. He could have done everything right and ideal for me, and I was going to sabotage this. There was just no way I was ever going to feel okay in it. And it was my inability to get over that relationship when it ended that then started me going, I need to step away. I need to step away from these inappropriate relationships. I need to focus on me. Then I was attuned to Reiki, and sort of that was the beginning of me going, yeah, I can take me forward now. And that was where are we? No, not quite 17 years ago. No, yeah, probably about 17 years ago. I'm trying to work out how old I am right now. Longer than I probably want to admit.
Not like one thing happens and you change overnight. I think something big can happen to really give you that hold on a moment sort of journey. Because like my main pivotal point, I guess, was 2007 when my first marriage ended. And that was a sort of dark night of the soul. And I found Reiki at that time as well, interestingly. But I still had a few other smaller dark nights of the soul, maybe. But, you know, it was like, it's just that journey. I think for a while, I thought you got to a point where you were fixed, no longer broken. Yes. And then it took me a long time to realize that, you know, I love who I am now. I wouldn't say I'm perfect. I wouldn't say I wouldn't call myself broken, but I wouldn't call myself fixed. I've done a lot of work and I have a lot of tools and I have good days and bad days. And I used to get cross at myself for the bad days because I thought, I know this, I should know this. Why am I getting upset and anxious? Because I shouldn't, because I'm fixed. And then it was that sort of, I think it's accepting our shadow side as well, because we've created a part of us that kept us safe for a very long time. So it's going back to same behaviors. We'll do it over and over. And that will always be part of us because it's been so ingrained and entrenched for such a long time. And I found that really, really difficult to accept. So when I got into people pleasing and a bit of perfectionism and anxiety flared up, I would then get worse because I'd beat myself up for it and think, oh my God, I thought I'd dealt with this. Why is this still happening? Rather than go, okay, now I can see it with compassion and empathy and sort of connect with the maybe younger self and say, what do you need? You know, thanks for trying to help, but that's not helpful now. But it's that kind of acceptance part of, okay, there's a few parts to me. You know, I'm not just this person. There's this part, there's another part. And it's recognizing the journey as well. It's like, don't try and be here. You know, we're always looking to think, I want to be over there. It's like, but we're here. And enjoy here, you know, as much as you can. And that's been massive for me, that realization of, right, I can enjoy where I am now. I can still aspire for things and have goals, but that acceptance part of, right, okay, that's been interesting for me.
That's been huge. And I love the phrase radical acceptance.
Yes.
That real, you know, radical acceptance.
There's a book called Radical Acceptance by Lisa Bilyeu. Have you read it?
No. Yes, okay. I've heard of it, but yes.
Okay. I haven't, it's on my wish list, but she speaks, actually, I came across her on a podcast with Dr. Chatterjee. I don't know if you're familiar with his podcast. I love his podcast. Most of my books come from his podcast, if I'm honest. And she was on it 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and it was an absolutely phenomenal episode. And I have the book now in my Audible wish list. Once I finish this one, that's going to be my next one.
Yeah, I love that, in just that we have to accept not just being in the moment, but everything about us. You know, even when I know I talk to clients about writing a new story, but this is not being stuck in their old story. But it's not about whitewashing what they've been through, or for any of us whitewashing what we've been through. It's being able to shift the meaning of what we've been through, being able to see all those gifts and those lessons in, you know, all those moments, those experiences, those dark nights. And I think that's where we get to the radical acceptance, for me anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. I love all the experiences I've been through, and because it's made me who I am. You know, it's been the purpose. I think purpose for humans, for all humans, is just to live in integrity and in peace and with some freedom. And I think that is every single person on the planet. Now, purpose can be bigger for some people. It can be, I mean, changing lives. I like to think I do help change lives in what I do, but it can be a multi-billion, you know, stage performer type thing as well. That can be purpose, but it can be something really small as well. But I think the essential goal for everybody is just to find that kind of inner peace. We don't know that's what we're looking for, though. I didn't know what I was looking for. I looked for it in the bottom of a wine bottle. I looked for it in drugs. I looked for it in relationships and partying for a very, very long time. And it took me a long time to realize that actually I'm not going to find it there. I'll find the extrinsic outside hedonistic stuff, but I'm actually looking for the intrinsic contentment. You know, I look into my garden at my vegetables that are growing, and I get such joy comes over my whole body. And I just think I'm so grateful and happy that I have a garden now that I can go and ground in my bare feet, and I can go look at my vegetables and take in my beans and my tomatoes and my cucumber that we grew ourselves. And I get such joy from stuff like that. And I never would have thought that would be me, hiking with bare feet, growing my own vegetables, you know, living as wild as I can without being too wild, because I do like the mod cons of life too. But it's like, just that for me, it's a stripping back. It's simplifying, stripping it back, but doing the work. The work is important. I mean, we've both clearly done a lot of work. And I try and say to people who are interested in working with me, you know, you have to be willing to do the work, because you have to. The work I've done has been massive when I think about how much I've done and the things I've traveled inward. I've traveled places in the world to find myself, you know, and we can take all that knowledge and, you know, all the dark nights of the soul and all the experience and all the good, all the bad, and put it into some kind of package and say, well, I help you do this. And I'm uniquely me, you're uniquely you. You know, people coaching, it can be the same thing, but in a totally different way. So it's like, I can help you. You know, people will resonate to the person that they want help from, but it's that asking for help part. I would never have known help was available. I've been coached by a life coach, and I found her by accident, but she changed my life completely. I didn't have self-worth. I had that unworthiness. I didn't have assertive skills, you know, no boundaries. I didn't know how to channel anger in a healthy way. And in session 1, she basically said, I can help you with all those things. And I remember thinking, what? You can learn this stuff? Like, what? Okay, I'll come back. And I went for years. I was addicted a little bit almost to the life coaching, because it just changed my life so much. I was willing to invest in it, though, because I got such value from it. So I think she was charging something like £50 an hour. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, that's a lot. But it didn't feel like it, because I was able to go, well, actually, I don't need to buy this or this, because I'm going to spend my money on this, because I wanted the change so badly that I was willing to invest in that. So I understand that. So it's about trying to kind of compassionately explain to people that, you know, you can do it yourself, but it'll take a very, very, very long time. If you can get someone to help you with that, you'll do it so much quicker. And, you know, life, we don't have infinite amount of time. We could have short time on this, like, we don't know. So it's like, why would you not start it today? You know, and I think, do it now. Just if you're looking at working with someone, or someone resonates, but you think, oh, I don't know. It could be the scared of the changes as well, I guess, because my life changed dramatically when I found my coach. I lost my business, I lost my husband, I lost my dogs. I say I lost. I chose that path, you know, I chose to lose those things. I chose to let them go, however it looked, you know, and it was a journey I needed to go on to come out the other side and go, well, I need to let go of the stuff that's not serving me, and then find a new path. And that wasn't easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but, you know, you've got to think, are you willing to make the changes, and are you willing to invest in yourself? Because the best investment you'll ever make is you.
Well, and I was just, there was so much in there. I'm trying to remember back. Obviously you were talking, and, you know, I was the same in terms of the external, the relationships, the partying. And when I was in my early 20s, I worked in pubs and clubs. So the drinking, the partying, you know, after your work was part of it, but that's also a great excuse. but it's all trying to numb. We're
No.
ultimately trying to numb.
Yeah.
Because the fear of how painful it's going to look to look at the feelings and feel those feelings and allow them. But that's because we're never taught to feel them. We're told, you know, I think I've had this conversation on several of these podcasts, that we're told to, you know, especially as women, anger, you don't get anger, you suppress it. Or if you do get angry, we're not shown how to express that healthily, so then it comes out in other ways and then we get criticized for it.
Yeah.
Actually, anger can be a really motivating emotion. It can be a really healthy and helpful emotion,
Yeah,
if we're allowed to express it.
Yeah.
And the same with being sad and tears. It's fine to release. You know, there is nothing wrong with releasing emotion. But again, it's something that's looked at potentially as weak. The whole boys don't cry, all of the stuff. And I just think, you know, if we could be taught that so much of this is natural, normal, getting back to basics, basically. And I'm kind of then thinking of your, you know, the rewilding nature, that reconnection, and just how much more there is.
Yes. This should be stuff that can be integrated into schooling.
Yeah.
More important. It's more important than half of the stuff you get at school. The stuff at school is important, some of it, depending on where you want to go with your career. None of it worked for me, but then that's not where I went in my life. And I wasn't academic in the traditional sense. So that didn't bode me well either, which actually made my experience worse, if I'm honest. I left school at 15 feeling stupid, less than, bit thick, if I'm honest. Got a few grades, scraped through a little bit, but I wasn't interested. Now I'm like a sponge. I cannot study enough stuff because it just, every time I listen to a podcast and I hear a book recommendation, I have to get that. And then it puts me down that road of breathwork, was through listening to a podcast. And when I found out how powerful that was, and the fact that it could change lives and illnesses and autoimmune diseases and asthma and all the things, I was like, what? So I went and studied that. And it fascinates me about that. And that's a free modality, because we've got to remember that, unfortunately, there's a word called patriarchy, and you know, there's ego and the power, you know, that all kind of, we've gone a bit too far in the masculine right now, and we need to balance.
We're in toxic masculine right now. We're not just keeping it masculine.
Yes,
yeah,
it's gone way up that way, and it needs to come back into balance. And I think what I see is a lot of females now that I know that are really stepping into their power and going, no, enough is enough. We need to rise now and say, this is, you know, and I don't mean pull the men down. I mean, like, side by side, walk side by side. Absolutely. And say, right, power is not going to make you happy. Money is not going to make you happy. You know, I mean, medical industry, not everyone, that's not true, but a lot of people, and I was one of those people who thought a drug would fix the thing, you know, and breathwork can fix a lot of the things. And it's like astounding how much things. So that to me is like incredible, because it's free. It can be done at home. And why would you not like look into that? But, you know, it's such a fast-paced, switched on, over-consuming, fast food, processed foods, everything at a touch of a button. You can get it that same day. Everyone wants that now. So that, you know, a drug's the same. It's like a quick fix. Whereas we need to take a bit more responsibility and go, well, actually, what could I do to maybe take my own part within this and change? As we've been on our own path. So, right, we need to change because we don't like where we've maybe gone. So it's that taking responsibility, which is hard. It is hard to kind of mirror that to people sometimes, say, you know, well, what's your part in that? You know, because you've maybe got a part to play in that too, and look at that part. So, I mean, because in my coaching, my coach often would hold up a wee mirror, not an actual real mirror, because people used to say, a real mirror? I'm like, no. Metaphorically, she would hold up a mirror and throw something back at me. As I sat there giving, oh, poor me, this has just happened, she would be like, okay, well, let's break that down. Let's have a look at maybe what could we do. And I was often like, oh, right, okay. But I was ready to do that. I think, okay, you know, I'm willing to make these changes. And I think they're coming. I see an energy shift. There's a lot of coaches now that do loads of different good things in the world. And I think that's amazing. The internet, as toxic as it can be really helpful, because we can reach these people, you know? we can get to see the real world now. I think when we were young, we had magazines that were super unhealthy, super like airbrushed models, and everyone had to be skinny. Now the younger ones have an access to both of that world, so they can maybe see the truth and look at and make their own minds up about looking for help as well. So I think that can be a good thing. As much as I'm kind of control your internet usage and your social media, use it for good. Use it for good in the world, if we can.
And I was thinking back to you talking about obviously investment in ourselves and against that quick fix. And I just think, again, going back to if this was something that was taught earlier, I have spent thousands, and that's not an understatement, because I can think in the last 2 years that, in the last 2 years, I've definitely spent at least 10,000 investing in myself. At least that's the minimum. And I'm not saying this just kind of because I want to, oh, look, I've spent this on. It's about the work that even in the last 2 years that I've been able to do and the things I've been able to achieve. I mean, my life didn't look like this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm still in the same home. Yes, I'm still in the same place. But in terms of in a bit of me, the core bit of me, I guess, that person has completely changed. My work has obviously completely changed. And I just think, talking breath work and these things that are free, that wouldn't it be great if we could access some of this earlier? And actually, yes, we might still need to invest in ourselves, but maybe not over the years that it's taken you and I.
Absolutely. That's what I kind of say to people. I want to help you with the tools I now know in a shorter space of time than it took me, because it's taken me a long time to get to this point, and a lot of money. I actually tried to work out my spend, and including my life coach and all the courses that I've done and retreats abroad and things. I've spent like at least 20,000, if not more.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, sounds like a lot of money, but then I think if I look who I was at the beginning of that journey and who I am now, not a penny was wasted. Not a penny.
And I would agree. And I would also, going back to you saying about working with someone versus the books. I mean, I've had self-help books. It wasn't Feel the Fear. It was the other really well-known one that is sat somewhere on my bookshelf and I can't see it from here. It'll come to me. I've had that since my early 20s.
Yeah.
But you would read it, you would take some on, you'd try it, but that was kind of as far. There was no accountability. Nobody really talked about responsibility in the same way that I think we do in the coaching. And even now, again, I was with my coach the other day and they were saying things that I know. They weren't telling me anything new, but there was something that it was coming from somebody else, that it hit differently. I felt it hit differently, and therefore I respond to it differently. And for as much as I'm there for all these other women and working with all these other women, I also can't imagine not having my own coach anymore.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter what level I get to, every time I up level, something else will be there. And
definitely. I think so. Coaches need coaches, we all need coaches. And I've had coaches for business, I've had coaches for email, I've had coaches for Instagram, I've had coaches for many things as well as a life coach. And because I understand the power of investing and having help. I would never have asked for help before. As I say, I found my life coach kind of by accident. I wasn't looking, I didn't even know what a life coach was back then, but it was meant to be, obviously. And then from then on, I've realized the value, because I used to read books like Feel the Fear. And if there was an exercise on it, I would always skip past the exercise and not do the work. I would just read the book, get the knowledge and go, oh, I know that. Yeah, I can do that. But you can't most of the time. I think you get the knowledge and you know it. And as you say, a coach maybe tells you something that you think, oh, I know that, but have you applied it? And it's like, it's having someone there to hold you accountable. I think that's the key part, is the accountability of knowing, actually, I'm checking in with Jordan next week. Oh, she's going to ask me about that thing we spoke about last week. And then you're going to be like, right, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to have a look at that and maybe put it into practice or whatever it is. And that's a key part of coaching, I think, as well.
And I think as well as the accountability as well, it's someone there to support you through it, because you talked about shadow work, the shadow side and the inner child. And we know when it's that, when we're getting to that level of work, we're getting to the real roots. We are about to pull something up. We're going to get uncomfortable. We're going to get more than uncomfortable at stages. And I think as well as the accountability, it's just having somebody there going, you know, you're safe through all of this. It's not therapy, but it does deal with trauma, because somewhere within needing to do the shadow work and the inner child work means there's something there.
Definitely. My life coach was my biggest cheerleader. You know, I when I was going through stuff, I knew she would be there to hold that space for me, to be able to go in and just go bleh.
Absolutely.
I like to think of someone neutral, you know, as well, because often people will go to friends and stuff, but they, unfortunately, your friends and family have their own best interests a little bit at heart as well. And they don't mean to, that's just a subconscious thing, but, you know, they're biased a little bit because they know you, they know your life. Whereas someone completely neutral can see it for what it is, can tell you how it is, and offer that support, I think, which is super crucial. We need to change the world one person at a time, Jordan.
Exactly. And that's why, you know, you were talking about patriarchy, and that's why I'm so into the feminine and the feminine energies in my work, not to push women to just be in their feminine energies, because that's just as unbalanced. But to really pull this, you know, now into balance and
proud of their feminine energy. You know, it's something I think we've been a bit embarrassed about, suppressed about. We don't talk about our cycles and how we feel, and what that's part of life. Every single woman goes through this thing, you know, called menopause and periods and perimenopause, you know. And I mean, that's a whole other topic we could get onto. I'm just kind of scratching the surface of looking at it. I'm perimenopausal. I didn't even know that word existed up until this year, and I was like, oh right. And when someone described it to me, I thought, tick, 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 tick. Yeah, that fits my box right now. And I didn't even know it existed. So there you go. It's like, wow.
And I think as well, you know, I spent years in my masculine energy, but I also spent years in my pride of how independent I was, how I could do so much of what a man does. I mean, I used to move house on my own with little support. Obviously, I worked in security, so again, we're in a very male environment. And I was also very proud of women's equality. And it's only recently that I've really kind of been looking into this more. And this whole piece actually, and I'm sure I'm going to get shot down by at least somebody, but it's not about us achieving equality. Now, I don't mean policy and procedurally. I mean, of course, equal wages, all of that, absolutely. But we have our own skills. We have our own energies. We can do so much in a way that the masculine energies can't. So whether you're male or female or non-binary, however you see yourself, whatever your predominant energy is, actually we partner up really well.
Is that? I agree. I agree totally.
So we shouldn't be fighting to kind of step in and equal men or equal that masculine energy. Like I said, with the exception of the policy procedure stuff. Let's hold up our skills and our experiences.
Totally. And feminine energy is a softer kind of surrendering energy, and the masculine is the doing and the, you know, and we need both. We absolutely need them to come and work together. We have been too much in the masculinity of, you know, wearing achievement as a badge of honor, and like how busy we are and how overproductive we are. And you know, my fiance is a great napper. He'll have a snooze in the afternoon. And I always go, oh, but there's things to be doing, surely. And then I think, no, I'll have a snooze as well. And I'll lie there and he's instantly sleeping. And I'll be lying there thinking, washing needs done, or this needs done, and this needs done. And I have managed a couple of times to have a little snooze, and it's like, wow, that's interesting that I'm in the masculine energy there, because my partner is in the feminine. He's got a lot of feminine energy, which is why we've both done a lot of work on ourselves, which is why we came together in a healthy way. So we complement each other. We don't complete each other. Because that's another myth I think that I used to believe in, was the whole soulmates. And I believe you have lots of soulmates, not just one. And no one should make you whole, because you need to be whole and they need to be whole, and you need to come together to complement each other. And I'm lucky to say I have found that because of the work I've done, and he'd been doing it too, which is fantastic. But I'm still jealous that he can have a snooze that quickly in an afternoon, because my masculine energy goes, oh, but there's things that we should be doing. Is that not like productive? So that's the balance I need to find still, of the, okay, it's okay to just let stuff go, take a break. Because as a solopreneur, we do put in a lot of hours. Even when we should be switching off at 5 o'clock on a Friday, I've seen me thinking, oh, well, I could just get this thing done. That'll just take an hour. I'll just quickly pop that email out now. And it's like, no, stop.
Oh yeah, the number of times it's suddenly 7 and you haven't realized.
Yeah.
But actually feeling into that one, when I was in local authority and NHS, the pace that we used to run at and consistently work at, which was considered normal for the job. And there were still times I'd be criticised for being too slow with the work, even though, I'd been in the office 8 till 6 and worked the weekend, and I still hadn't met deadlines. And it's now stepping into the soulpreneur work, and suddenly I sort of find myself going, I've got the telly on at lunchtime. I shouldn't be doing it, because I never took a lunch break. I'd sit with my sandwich at the computer if I was in the office, or eat in the car driving between appointments. Yeah. And now I know my body is at the pace it should be. Like, for all of that time it was running on cortisol, for all of that time it was running on adrenaline for years. And I thought that was the right pace. And it's the stepping back that my body's, I'm kind of like, okay, this is what it feels like when your body's not hustling and not pushing and not in that drive.
Yeah. And that cortisol stuff, it's fine if you need a push and you need to do something or hit a deadline, but if you want to have a nice night's sleep, you need to get that cortisol right down and get the melatonin right up. And then that means the sleep's going to be affected because the cortisol is controlling the hormonal system, and again, that's a whole other subject I love talking about, is sleep and the circadian rhythm and all that stuff as well. Yeah.
Well, important. You're saying about this, the sleep and rhythms and a whole other conversation. I'm very aware that we're coming up to almost our hour, and we haven't touched on a subject that I actually wanted to touch on. Okay. So on that note, would you love to come back, and so we can talk about sleep and rhythms and cold water?
Yes,
we haven't even touched on the cold, and I know how amazing it is for us, and it's such a significant part of what you do.
It is,
and we haven't touched on it. So Howard, come back and let's talk cold water.
Absolutely. Just before we go quickly, me and my friend Clara, who does fire walking, we've just put together a fire and ice ceremony that we're going to do in September, which is the cold water, proper ice therapy, and the fire walk as well. So excited about that. So yes, I need to come back on, and we need to touch on all these subjects and chat about them as well.
No, definitely. And obviously, with the cold water, that's exactly it. Very briefly, it hits into our nervous system, it hits into resetting us. So yes, absolutely. let's
I'd love to come back.
Do that for
really enjoyed it,
because I can't believe we've missed cold water in this whole conversation.
Especially because the whole of the UK is burning up right now and they're all boiling hot.
That's probably why we're probably just in the heat. Nicola, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for joining me.
I've really enjoyed myself. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.